Hey guys, and welcome back to another meta recap. There were a lot of regionals that happened this weekend, and we'll be focusing on mostly Utrecht. But I'll be covering over some of these tournaments recently because by the title, looking at this, you guys looking at this title right now, Leech Seed Ice Rider has won two majors back to back basically, and I wanted to go over those teams as well, going over mostly most of Utrecht, most of the top cut here. But I really want to focus on starting off with Michael Kelsch's team here, which did end up winning the whole special event here. And yeah, Michael's team here is composed of Calyrex, Miraidon, Grimsnar, Urshifu, Ensign, and Landorus. These are also the spreads that they made public. I usually recreate spreads, but they posted after the tournament here. And see here, this is very straightforward, right? If you look back at the Milwaukee winning team, it is four of the same Pokemon. And if you look at also a lot of the teams over here, you can see that those cores still doing well. In day two, a lot of people are still using like Lunala variants and stuff. But a new adaptation some people have been running is this Ice Rider with Leech Seed, right? So the whole idea basically is Ice Rider behind screens. Similar to Lunala, has really great bulk. You know the Shadow Shield, but Ice Rider has higher stats. So you're still taking plenty of hits, and with Leech Seed and leftovers, you're getting all your HP back. So it kind of allows you to be this more stally Pokemon behind screens. Kind of functions like Celesteela or Ferrothorn if you're playing those formats, right? Removing them is really hard. And now imagine they don't only just Leech Seed, but you have the combination of Trick Room for speed control, but also Glacial Lance, the strongest spread physical type move in the game, right? Very oppressive. And yeah, it allows you kind of sit in front of Zamazenta, any physical attacker really, and then recover off them, which is really nice. Um, and yeah, paired with screens and Leech Seed does its thing. The rest of the team is pretty straightforward, right? This Ensign, Grim, Urshifu core we've seen a lot. The most interesting note really is the Ensign here is max speed, which I think has some really cool interactions because you faster fake out versus other fake out teams. But also, I think the main interaction I want to talk about here is we saw this on stream actually. We saw this Ensign outspeed their own Landorus. So you can see here, max speed Ensign with 252 is actually 1 point faster than this 4-speed Landorus, which is pretty insane. So some cool techs you can do is you can knock off Assault Fasts, and then the Landorus can move after, and then you get a KO with Sludge Bomb or Earth Power, which I find really, really neat. This Lando, I also want to talk a lot about because normally you do see Ursa Luna on these builds, but I think without the Lunala Y Guard, it's a lot harder to position the Lunala, position the Ursa Luna without Lunala, right? So Taunt Lando here allows another strong attacker, but also another support option because again versus Lunala, you can also taunt it. So let's say you're facing a Trick Room team, you want to prevent Trick Room. Taunt's a really good way to shut it down. You've Earth Power to front KOs on non-AV Miraidons, do also a lot of damage to Miraidon. And then Terra Poison Sludge Bomb hits the grass type, super effective, which is really nice. And yeah, not only just no speed, you're also 132 speed def. I'm sure they're gonna make a team report on this, but I did some calcs, and this thing is insane. You actually live 212 special attack Draco from a Sophist Miraidon, which is what we ran in Milwaukee, and you live it, which is insane. You also live Timid Draco through Light Screen from Choice Specs. So really bulky Landorus, and I think the spreads definitely carried him a long way. So yeah, really cool tech, and I'm glad to kind of show this because like when I saw this on stream, this was the first thing I calced. I'm like, I gotta know what this Instant Lando is, and I got it mostly right for the most part. Actually, it's kind of funny when I was comparing it. But yeah, this was I think like a well-run, like I would say like almost completely standard team with Leech Ice Rider, but the spreads I think took it to the next level because like not only just is the bulky Lando, the bulky Mirai and bulky Urshifu is also pretty nuts. It's like no speed Ursh, which I think is like pretty straightforward if you want bulky, right? But the Miraidon here, I think is really unique because it's only 36 special attack and it's 132 speed def. I'm not sure what this is for exactly. I'm guessing it's for like +2 Astral, or maybe you even live Drift when you Terra Fairy. Something crazy like that probably. I need all the calcs, but the bulk is really nice with the screens, and I can kind of see what the logic behind it a little bit. And you have a little bit speed for other Miraidon, slower Miraidons, which I find quite nice. But yeah, the whole idea behind Leech Seed, though, to kind of move on, like, because this actually didn't originate from Michael Kelsch. The Japanese have been this one for a long time, so Leech Seed has been a thing since last regulation, when Elizabeth, one of the top Japanese players, won the global challenge. There's no OTS here, but we do have information that this is Leech Seed Ice Rider paired with this Tingdozo core. And I think like these kind of style teams are really popular in Japan, and I think that in this new regulation where the metagame's a little bit slower pace and there's more fat Pokemon, Leech Seed can take advantage of that, and that's why it did so well here, right? It also did well in Japan qualifiers. Candy, Arabega, and Zine, strong Japanese players, all use it for their qualifiers, and they use a variant of this, right? And this is, I can see, there's actually 5 of the same Pokemon that Michael Kelsch had here, and a 1-month difference for the Milwaukee team, which was they had the Calyrex. Actually, Candy did DM me about this, asking how the team works, basically, and this was his version. And Michael here and his group replaced the Ursaluna with the Landorus, and of course made their own spread changes. Some of the spreads are similar, but many of them were different, right? With the choice specs on the Miraidon now, and pretty similar Cali, but very fast instant, and then land over here, right? So that's kind of how concept came together. And yeah, it is super strong, and I think it's going to be one of the strongest combos going into the future because, again, Miraidon, Milwaukee, we already know it's probably the strongest restricted at the moment, but paired with Ice Rider now with the screens is probably the next step over Lunala, and this kind of proves my point too because it also won a Latin regional, Santiago regional here by Max Morales, and he won with a again the same core Miraidon Ice Rider Leech Seed. So it's a different Pokemon, right? With the Grim, but instead of Instant, there's Iron Hands. Instead of Lando, it's the classic Ursaluna, which we had in the Lunala team, and then the Volcarona as the redirector, and also has Tailwind here. So yeah, some really interesting teams here, but it does show the dominance, just winning back-to-back majors. And I actually believe he actually posted the spreads here too, so kind of go look over here. Spreads are pretty similar actually, like pretty standard Cali, right? The main thing to note though is I think the Crunch Ursaluna, it's also fast, which has probably takes advantage of the Tailwind here, and also speed on the Iron Hands. So normally like you see min speed on either Cali or Ursa hands, right? But with the Tailwind control here, I'm assuming you actually want a speed investment. And one nice thing about actually having not min speed is you can play out of speed ties. So obviously in Trick Room you'll be slower, but at least out of Trick Room, you have a general idea that you're probably gonna be faster most times, right? Only other thing to mention is probably like this Miraidon spread. It's also quite bulky and slow. It's actually a little bit slower than Couch is and a little bit more stronger, and a little less bulky on the split depth side, but still very, very bulky, right? So instead of people going max timid now, people are opting for modest bulky Miraidon, which makes a lot of sense to taking hits. And the last thing I want to talk about the Miraidon Kelly Ice teams is the first seed. So there was another regional that happened in Melbourne, Australia, and this was a 5th place by Benji Wang here. And as you can see, it didn't win, but this was actually the first seed. This was 8-0 in day 1, and still made top cut in day 2 here, but just lost a little bit short for the win. And yeah, a very similar core of this Ursh Cali Miraidon core, right? The only difference here is Instant Rilla, which is a little bit odd. Mostly the Rillaboom, right? Rillaboom on Miraidon is not very common, but Rillaboom does synergize really well to Leftover's Cali, so I kind of see the idea behind that. Because you can like, one thing you can do is like Volt Switch out with the Cali, go Rillaboom, and you get it trained up immediately for the lefties, right? And if you pivot in and out, then your Miraidon's not going to be in the field, so obviously the extra terrain doesn't really matter anymore, right? And this also allows your Amoonguss to shine, because if you pivot out into Rilla, then you click Spore and such. So some cool text here. I don't know if it's nearly as consistent as the Grimmsnarl versions, because obviously they won, but it's still cool to see like this concept has so much you can build around it. And Leech Seed Ice Rider is definitely one of the best Pokemon in the current format. It's just so bulky, and it kind of does it all, right? Very flexible Pokemon. But yeah, that's kind of all I really want to talk about some of these other teams outside of Utrecht. And we kind of want to go over some of these other top cut teams now. Starting off with Lewis's finalist team. I'm not gonna recreate all these teams because actually I recreated most of these top cut teams before. A lot of these teams have been kind of similar. Lewis team actually here, I believe it's pretty similar to the first Victory Road winner, which I did video a while back, so I'll definitely link that below. But anyways, very standard CSR Zama team, right? CSR setup Zama, it's always paired with Instant Rilla, right? Usually one former redirector. In this case, Lewis here opted for the Arcbound Heartflame, synergizes really well with the Rillaboom here, the Grassy Glide, and then Scarf Ursh. Ursh is a good Pokemon, so and the double fake out hitting for protect's really nice, right? Kelly Shadow Terror Dark was quite nice though. We kind of showed it in the finals a little bit. Being immune to Thunder Wave from Grip Snarl was really important. I believe he teared a few times to get around that. It's also good for Mirror Shadow Rider and such. One thing to note though is in that finals, I believe he probably actually should have won the game 3, but Michael got a very, I guess, lucky, unfortunate for Lewis, critical hit. And he also mentioned in his interview that CSR Zama is actually problematic for his Mirana comp, which also makes a lot of sense because one thing is for these new Mirana comps going around is you're dropping Frigoraph. So double fake out is very, very free, which allows the Cali and Zama to kind of snowball, right? Another thing is if you're placing the Cali Ice with Lunala, there's no Y guard, so you have to play those After Raj mind games. So it kind of allows Lewis's team here to kind of just click fake out and click Astral when it wants, right? You do have double dark, which is probably your main way of getting around it. Michael kind of showed that the coverage in Instagram can be annoying to break because you don't have many ways to hit the dark types besides the Zamazena and such. But yeah, I think this is still a very, very strong team. If you're really good at balance and you really like CSR, this is probably one of the best builds for you right now. But I think that one thing that I think what made Lewis really shine is he was one of the strongest Cali Shadow players in Richie, and the skills definitely transferred over. So can still definitely work, but comfort's key and definitely carried him to finals here. Next in top cut is Nicolaj's team, and I've also covered a very similar team back in Rec G because this is the exact team that he ran for Victory Road and some of the other Rec G tournaments they had, but they replaced the Iron Hands with Zamazena. It's actually the same exact 5 Pokemon, the same Blood Moon, Torn, Sneasler, Mirai and Fur Core they've been running, but Zama has replaced the Iron Hands as their fighting type as an extra support option. So yeah, I think it's one of those other things where it's also comfort is key. Louis has been running CSR forever. In the Hodge brothers cases, right? This is one of the Hodge brothers. They've been running Ursuline Blood Moon since it's dropped. They've talked about several tournaments with it. I think this is just comfort. I don't even know how strong the team actually is. I think this is just like they're just cracked with it. Like the way I ever watch them play, they get the reads right. They know how the team works in and out, right? Because for the most part, it's the standard part of the Mariana team is Mariana, Farig, and speed control, right? That's pretty straightforward. These 3 unorthodox parts, right? Ursulina Blood Moon hasn't seen much usage in its regulation just yet, but similar to Ursulina Hisui, right? It's still a strong ground type. Ground types are kind of limited in this format, so we've seen Lando do well now, we've seen Ursa do well now, so why not Blood Moon, right? You still resist Shadow Rider, and Terranor Blood Moon can still play money KOs. Sneasler, this is still the mod I'm most unsure of. Like, I get why it's here. It's a fast attacker that abuses terrain because you burden. So you can click fast fake out. You have fast close combat for a chop gong shut for in a lot of Pokemon. But I do think it's like quite frail in my opinion, but he made the most use of that and it worked out here. Zama, I think, makes sense. If you don't have hands, right, it gives you another fine type, but it gives you Y guard. Because a team like this is really weak to opposing Ice Rider. Like you see, Glacial weak, Glacial weak, Glacial weak. So Y guard allows you to have some mind games. We actually saw Hodge beat Kelsch's friend in Swiss, who made top 4 on the same team, and it kind of showed the matchup is definitely a little bit better with Zamazena here. Speaking of Michael's friend, Alexander ran the exact same team. So not going to talk much about this besides the one change that he had. And they had the same sets besides the Urshifu. It was still Choice Band, but Alexander here out for Terra Water. I'm assuming there's probably some Terra Water calc with Choice Band that's a lot better than Terra Ghost. I do think there's a little extra, but I mean, you can't deny Terra Water Choice Band Surging is probably claiming some kind of KO. Very, very strong. But yeah, this also kind of shows the power of the team. Having 2 of the same team in top cut is always a good feeling for a team building group. I think this actually happened common a lot. If this ever happens, I feel like the team always wins. It happened with us in Milwaukee. It happened at San Antonio. It happened at Atlanta. It just shows that a strong building group can go a long way, and they just want to hold in with it. So major congrats to the Germans who came up with this cool 6. Next we have Zhang's team here, and it's just standard Miraidon Ho Oh for the most part. Joey Pokegame top 8 Milwaukee with a very similar team. Instead of the Urshifu, it was Iron Treads. and it was Sash Bundle, and it was a Life Orb shreds he had. Zhang here opted for Booster Bundle because he had Focus Test on Urshifu, right? I think you can kind of opt for different items as well, right? Like if you go Sash Bundle, I think it'll be a lot easier to free up the slots, right? Because both Pokemon want Sash. But I was actually reading his tweet and he was saying that he bundled those 0 games. So this could definitely be a whole different Pokemon. I know that Marco Fierro was streaming some games and he had a Choice Band Treads of the bundle slot. So that could definitely be a substitute option. But I'm assuming Bundle was mostly on his team to be opposing Kyogre and Zacian, which is otherwise kind of hard for a team like this because you can see here the combination of Kyogre Zacian actually hits the whole team. So Bundle does make some sense if he did pull that matchup, but he clearly didn't if he didn't bring it at all. But yeah, the general idea is Ho Oh beats Rillaboom. It supports really well the Miraidon by hitting its weaknesses. Tailwind supports the team quite well. Like, we already know Tailmiraidon's really strong Whimsicott, but Ho Oh is more defensive option for it, right? And there's some cases where if you have an Trick Room, like on the last turn Trick Room, you click Tailwind, and then you can sweep from there. It's kind of funny. We actually saw him have a pretty close set versus Michael. I do think that Miraidon Mirrors can always be volatile, and I think he was just like basically one turn away from winning. But yeah, lost in that game free set. But yes, this is a very strong 6, and South's got 2 regionals now, and I think that variants of this will probably stay consistent for the rest of the format. Next in top 8, we have Eric's team here. This is a very interesting team. This is probably one of the more interesting teams in top 8. Zacian, we were just talking about it actually, for saying like a team like this is probably really annoying if you didn't have the bundle. But yeah, like Zacian Kyogre, I mentioned this a little bit in the team report that we had a while back on the channel, is very impressive versus a lot of Miraidon comps, right? Play Rough and Behemoth Blade pins the Miraidons that are going Terra right now, like the one that just won. Kyogre, if you don't have Wyguard, can hit a lot of things in the format right now. Roaring Moon's a really good supporting piece for Kyogre. We saw this a lot in Regulation G. Talon plus Water Spout, Knockoff plus Water Spout, very strong combo, right? Amoonguss is like, I won't say it's almost mandatory in Kyogre, but it's very good in Kyogre, just because the redirection is really nice with it. And then you weaken the fire damage for the Amoonguss to take better hits. Hands is really good for the Miraidon matchup, so you have Hands and Zacian, right? That's really nice. It's also really good in Trick Room. This is realistically probably min-speed Hands, because the rest of the team is quite fast, right? And also Taunt Urshifu for Trick Room option, but also, yeah, Urshifu in Rain is, I'll say it's almost mandatory on Rain teams, just because it's just a cheat code, right? It just, the damage multiplier is too high, and hitting for Protect is always nice, especially when you have Tailwind. You can't stall Tailwind when you hit for Protect, basically. So I think this is a really solid team all around. I would definitely expect to see like definitely more Tornadus variants instead of Roaring Moon, but I'm assuming that maybe Cali Shadow was too much an issue and Roaring Moon helped patch that. So yeah, really cool take on Kyogre Rain here. Next team in top cut, really boring team as well. We have seen a lot of this team before. Actually, I think the top cut Milwaukee, and I have made recreations of this before because they have done well in VR, right? Instant, Cali Shadow, Rillaboom, Pagos. Not much to say, right? Double fake out setup's really strong. Cali Shadow here is sort of like a makeshift Scream Tail. Talked a little bit about my recent tier list that Scream Tail is not nearly as consistent right now. But Cali Shadow kind of replaces in a way with that Encore Disable here, right? It's a lot more oppressive attacker as well. Among Us, I think, is just kind of mandatory. It allows you to kind of help versus Amazena and Koraidon with a Rocky Helmet, just to redirect hits and spore things for Pagos. Ogre Rock's also another redirector for the team, also allows you to give another Spore immunity, because you look at this now, Pagos have dropped Substitute for Earth Power, so now you can't block Spore reliably, right? And with a Follow Me Grass type, you can kind of ignore Among Us. That's quite nice. Knockoff's also cute tech, because you can knock over like Assault Vests or Leftovers, or you can also hit opposing CSR, so that's also kind of nice. But yeah, not really much to talk about. I got over so many Pagos teams on his channel already. Pagos CSR is one of those archetypes that will, I think, always have at least one spot in top cut. It's usually, again, like the dedicated balance bros will be playing it, and that's really it. Definitely one teams to beat in this current format overall, though. Sum it up. The last team here in top 8 is Miraidon Lunala. but it's a lot, not your traditional Mirai Lunala, right? It's still Electric Seed, but it's on a Tailwind comp, and this one is Psychic actually. Um, haven't seen much Psychic Lunala. It makes sense because it's stab, right? But Moonblast's coverage is quite strong. But I feel that if you are running Terra Fairy Gleam, that is your way of getting around it. So I'm guessing that's why he has it there instead of Moonblast, because you already have Gleam. Urshifu in Tailwind, it is quite strong, right? We already know that. And the Dark Ursh here is really nice opinion. Opposing Lunala, also really good versus CSR, because I mentioned Wolf Michael's team, CSR double fake out can be quite annoying. So having Urshifu at least to pin a Terra Dark CSR allows you to play around it. Like even though this he actually ended up still losing to Lewis in top 8, but I do think that um, with Urshifu, with Inner Focus and Titagar and Fake Out, you definitely have the options too. I'm assuming the set was closed, but Lewis probably got some better calls, right? But yeah, definitely a cool take on this. There's actually a similar team that did well in VR a while back, and it was I think Shiyu in a different Urshifu form. But I do like these changes here because I think it gives some more consistent options into CSR balance if you play correctly. And Tay, not a mon we see often, but like I said, Inner Focus, get around Fake Out, Secret Fire, kills Rillaboom for your Mirada matchup, right? So makes sense to me. The next team is ninth. I'll actually link this team in the description as well because I know they actually posted it. But anyways, Nick Homer was actually the first seed in day 1 and in day 2. This was the 11-0. They went 8-0 8-0 in day 1, and they won all the rounds in day 2 till top 16, where they actually lost to a triple axle miss. They lost to Lewis because turn 1 was really funny. It was Terra Surging triple axle into the CSR. CSR swaps to Rillaboom. Serena misses the first turn triple axle, doesn't get a single hit off, and then he loses the spot from there. It was really bad. But I do think this team is actually really cool. I see a lot of similarities from the Stefan Mott team in Regulation G. That team was Torn Ogre with the Urshifu, Serena, and I believe there was a Chen Pao on there as well. Instead of that, you now have Iron Hands and Maridon, which obviously they go really well together, and also is a really strong pair in Tailwind and with Kyogre. 2 strong, super strong special attackers. One's a lot faster, which also takes advantage of the ring, because I don't think I saw this yet. The around here is Thunder. So according to his tweet, he was mentioning that Thunder, that 10 extra base power from Electric Drift, mattered in some really important calcs. So I think that's pretty cool. You don't usually see that. I don't know how consistent that is, but if it's there, I'm assuming he did click Thunder at least once, and it did its job. But yeah, again, like these Tauren Ogre builds are like the more hyper offensive ones have to look like this, right? I think the Among Us one with the Zacian is a little bit more of a consistent, like bulky offense team, but this one just going all on offense, and you can definitely overwhelm the opponents. And Nick Hero is actually one of Michael's only few losses, and I think this kind of shows that if you Grimmsnarl teams struggle versus overwhelming offense. So I could see teams like these definitely rise in the future if you want to really deal with Grimmsnarl. Just KO the Dazzle and the Water Spout, and it blocked those nasty Thunders and Fake Out with that Queen Majesty here. So yeah, very strong, impressive team. Next team in top cut is Aurelian. And yeah, Aurelian, it's really cool to see Aurelian. Aurelian was obviously one of the shining stars last season, and I know they've been busy with school and haven't been many tournaments, but this is another top cut they had for this season, and they are actually just running Audie's team. I will link the team report that Audie made in the description, and yeah, this is a public team that do Milwaukee, Audie top 16 with Ho Oh, Maridon, lost to Andrew Ding in that top 6 when Audie had it, but Aurelian here getting another top 16 for this team, showing the power of Ho Oh. Ho Oh has had several top cuts now, and again, it's like one of those Pokemon that people have kind of slept on, including myself, but results don't lie, right? It's a really phenomenal Maridon partner, being able to, again, like I mentioned, get rid of Rillaboom, but in this case, for this team, enables the Ursa Luna, because you actually have an Earthquake switch in, or like partner for it. Lunala on Maridon had Wide Guard for Earthquake, but flying typing, you can do like Tail and push Earthquake instead of Trick 'em Earthquake into Wide Guard, right? So this stuff, it's a more faster Ursaluna to convince a Tailwind, while usually the Lunala teams, their Ursaluna were like min speed, right? But yeah, faster paced team with the Ursaluna and Ho Oh the Tailwind, but you still have screens to slow it down, right? So With Reflecting Light Screen, you make this Miraidon very hard to kill. I also noticed Miraidon was close to max bulk, similar to the Michael team. And another thing to note is really that the Grimstyle is Parting Shot. So you usually see Thunder Wave on these teams, but I'm assuming with Talon, that's your main form of speed control. So opting out for the Thunder Wave inconsistencies and go for Parting Shot for more damage negation to also safely get into the Ursa. So there's some cases where maybe you can do like you could set up Tailwind with Ho Oh and Parting Shot out, get an Ursa Luna, and then you have an Ursa Luna next to Ho Oh in Tailwind, and that sounds pretty annoying to deal with. So yeah, pretty cool take. We've seen this team before, and another top cut for it. Next team in top 16 is P2 and Calyrex and Pagos. This team is strange, but I know it did really well in the GC as well. I believe it actually got second in the GC. This is actually Giulio's team. Gave it to just a few one that are Italians in their friend group, and we saw on the stream a little bit. Like he actually put his extremely well. I think like what's really strong about this team is just Instant Among Us Calyrex, right? Instant Among Us Calyrex Cornerstone, you can bring to a lot of matchups on their own and probably just win from there because Calyrex is still like busted, right? And then versus like dedicated CSR teams, that's where Pagos and P2 really shine because Calyrex really struggles versus a lot of CSR comps. So the double normal here was definitely a way to enable it. And then to deal with double normal weaknesses, you have the redirection, you have the fake out, you have Among Us to take a body press spore back, right? And just lost support for it. I wish we got to saw it maybe a little bit more in stream because we only saw it in Swiss where he was able to beat a Koraidon team. And I think Koraidon was definitely a lot easier to deal with when you have redirection and intimidate because it was life of Koraidon. So able to from there. But we didn't get to see the P2 Pagos at all in stream, but I'm definitely assuming it is for a CSR matchup, which makes sense to patch for the Calyrex. Next we have Oliver's team here, and it's another Kyogre team. Kyogre actually had a pretty good showing for the most part, right? There was one in top 8, there's 2 in top 16 now, and it's also getting with this Roaring Moon, like we saw in top 8. Opting for a different restricted though. Instead of Zacian, we have Zamazenta, but yeah, again, a very, very similar build, and a Chen Pao instead of Iron Hands like we saw in top 8. I think it's a similar premise, right? It's Talon plus Water Spout, except your Roaring Moon's here for CSR. You've Urshifu because again, Urshifu and Rain's kind of mandatory. And then Chen Pao is here because you don't have Zacian, right? Zacian was definitely a better answer into Miraidon, but with Chen Pao, you have the spinner to enable it. And also, Chen Pao here is definitely to enable your other restricted hero, Zamazenta, one of your best partners for it, right? And again, like Among Us and Rain, almost always mandatory if you want a way to just redirect stuff to help your Kyogre out, and again, also good partner Rain because you get rid of your fire weakness basically. So yeah, pretty straightforward for a Kyogre team with some other different techs. But yeah, again, I think Kyogre is well positioned, and I think this is another take you can do with it. Next in top 16, we have Max's team. We actually saw this one on stream a little bit, and it was actually really interesting to see Fake Tears Whimsicott. Nowadays, we usually see like light screen and such, but Max here opting for Fake Tears and actually got a very important KO. He was able to click Fake Tears Psychic, and he killed a Pagos, which was really funny. And yeah, this is a very hyper offensive team. And also one of the only this is the second CSR team in Top Cut. I think there's actually only 2 CSR Zama, and that's actually quite interesting. Like obviously it did make finals, but I definitely thought more traditional CSR Zama would convert in this tournament because EU tends to play those teams more often. But this other CSR Zama team, the only other CSR Zama team in cut was a more HO team, my hyper offense team. This one's not even nasty plot, it's just here to click buttons, right? You have a lot of good Talon mons here, like Talon plus Ivy Cudgel, Talon plus Astral Barrage, Fake Tears plus Astral, right? Where you go all in with Chen Pao with Ice Spinner plus Body Press, that's sort of ruin. But this crazy part of this, it's taunt Chen Pao. So when you're running hyper offense teams, you need ways to die in Trick Room. So Max here has opted for the taunt Chen Pao, the shutdown setup, the shutdown redirection, shutdown Trick Room. Also the encore to punish Trick Room, right? So some really cool text here. It's actually a really unique team the more I'm looking at it. And yeah, I think it has a lot of options to overwhelm your opponents. Next in top 16 is Juan's team here, Juan Garcia. And not much to really talk about. We saw the same team in top 8. This is probably the Pagos team. I guess the only thing I'm really mention is there are different variants of this. Sometimes you see Flutter over Amoonguss, or yeah, it's usually Flutter over Amoonguss or like Urshifu over something. But again, it's always going to be CSR, Pagos, and Cinderella. Those are the 4 pieces you want, and the other is redirector of your choice plus a flex slot, either attacker or another redirector like this one here, right? Probably the best Pagos build. And yeah, last team, and actually no, top 15 here, Bram, with another Zamazenta team here, but with a very different build actually. Terra Water Pelipper, which is interesting. I'm guessing that's some Water Block Helks. I meant to note though, it's Grassy Sea Lunala, not Wyguard, but it's actually double Fake Out Calm Mind. And I mentioned this in my team report. If you want a good matchup into at least our version of Lunala and Miraidon, Terra Fairy, Moonblast, Calm Mind is really hard to move, and it just hits the whole team, right? And I'll assume a team like this actually does fare well versus Michael's, just because Lunala is very, very, very hard to kill, right? Terra Fairy, Moonblast can kill Grimmsnarl. After a few Calm Minds, you basically wall the Miraidon, and you can also kill back with the Moonblast, and then also Moongeist also hits the Calyrex. You can't tear everything in that team. I think this is actually very, very impressive. And pair of the Rain, you're not just supporting the Zamazenta, but you're also supporting the Lunala from taking better hits from Chi when you Terra, and also Koraidon. So I think teams like these can definitely rise in the future. Kind of just like these more bulkier setup teams to overwhelm screens or just to outbulk things in general still, because you have Intim plus Grassy Seed, right? Very strong combo. And yeah, last team in top 16 is actually just our Milwaukee team with a few slight changes. This is actually more similar to the Federico team. So, no, Federico, Freddy Campo, he won the Global Challenge with our same Milwaukee 6, but he had different sets. I believe it is actually his sets here. He still had the Grim, but it was AV Instant with U-Turn, something we saw Michael use too as well, and it was a Choice Specs Miraidon. So opting for a more offensive take on it. Personally, I still like AV a lot on these screens teams with Lunala, but Miraidon just allows you to click Electric Discharge, which is really strong. Also just stronger Trickle Meteors and such. It's just the damage output is way better, right? So I think it's more of a preference thing. But yeah, with choice specs, you definitely play certain gameplays a lot more differently. Because I think AV Snarl was very, very strong. But I won't deny that specs also works. It won the GC and it has another top cut here. So that's all the teams in top 16. And there's a few teams going down to the 21st, the last team here. But next in top 32 top cut is Florian with, again, another CSR Pagos team. Not much to really talk about. I mentioned this earlier. Always these 4. Redirector of your choice. Flex slot your choice. In this case, it's the Urshifu. Sometimes you see Flutter, right? Scarf Ursh, again, it's enabled really well by double fake out. And then you can also revenge kill like CSR with Surging, right? Very straightforward. In top 18, we have Bart. And this is just actually, this is we showed this earlier. This is the Zine version, our Zine or Candy version. We showed it early in the beginning of the video. It's just one off from the Milwaukee team with the Leech Seed Ice Rider, and the only different sets here is the Mystic Water Ursh and the Terra Fairy Ursaluna. But yes, it plays very similarly to how the Milwaukee team plays. It's a screen swim right on. This time you don't have Wyguard, but you have Ice Rider to really abuse the screen to not die, and then Leech Seed to stall your Pokemon, right? Very, very impressive. Roberto Pernini, we also saw this team earlier, not much to really talk about, but the difference was actually, it is a Tristic from Rhydon, like the Milwaukee team, but instead of Grimmsnarl, he opts for Whimsicott. I think this actually makes more sense. If you're going Tristic from Rhydon, I think Whims is a better partner on this Lunala team, because it allows you to just go first, and it also allows you to kind of like do things with Encore. I think that one thing is, if you are struggling versus Calm Mind Lunala, the Whimsicott version gives you a lot of ways to stop the setup and Encore to a bad move, like Calm Mind there, right? So you have some quite kind of cool text. We also saw him really utilize the tail mode on stream. So I think that Whimsicott is a pretty good substitute if you don't want to run Grimmsnarl in some of these teams. If you want to make a more offensive take with the choice specs here, the choice banner, etc. The second to last team in top cut here is a variant of Dalway C's team. Dalway and Milwaukee top 32 with 5 of the same Pokemon. believe it was Rillaboom instead of Nihilape. But yes, it was a Calm Mind Terra Fairy Miraidon, which is really hard to remove. It's similar to Calm Mind Lunala, right? It just is very bulky, Calm Mind Terra Fairy attacker, right? And again, like I think this is really hard to deal with on certain Grimmsnarl teams because it's just hard to kill. And the Sinistcha here, you can redirect the ground types like Lando or Ursaluna to protect your Miraidon, and it's super annoying. Screens make it even bulkier. Ho Oh for the getting rid of Rillaboom for speed control, and Nihilape here instead of Rillaboom was quite interesting. No, Dalway had the Rillaboom just for the double fake out instead of Calm Mind, but I think Nihilape is quite nice because sometimes you don't actually have a lot of damage output here on his team, right? So Final Gambit is a way of I'm getting 1 KO, getting rid of the threat, and I'm allowing my Miraidon to step a lot easier. And Terra Ground here is really funny tech because in a Grimmsnarl metagame, you can dodge Thunder Wave with Terra Ground. So I find that really funny as well. And the last team here to talk about top cuts is the most boring team ever. We've already seen this. Not much to talk about besides the Clover Cloak. I don't know if Clover Cloak is much better, but dodging fake out's quite nice. And you talked about the Flutter version as well here, but the Flutter is kind of cool with fake tiers, I guess. I mean, fake tiers do boost the Pagos and CSR here for higher damage output. But again, Pagos, there was like, what, 4 in top cut. They all look the same. You can mix and match those last 2 slots, but this is what they look like, right? And yeah, that is it for the Utrecht top cut teams. Some interesting teams here, some standard teams. I think the main takeaways is that Ice Rider had a much stronger appearance with the Leech Seed combo, and the old Lunala teams are still putting a lot of work, along with just good Pokemon, and then Kyogre overall is rising usage, and I think it's something we'll probably see more in the future. But yeah, that's going to be it for the top cuts. For the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about some of the teams outside of cuts, some of the more interesting teams. The first one I'll talk about is Samuel's team here. This team was actually rank 1 in Battle Stadium right now. And some people were running Rillaboom instead of Tinglu, but I think Tinglu was a really cool piece because it's really strong in a Miraidon and CSR heavy metagame. And it also is really good versus Lunala, well, of course, same type in CSR. You sit in front of the Astral Barrage, you can snarl it. Dantube's a really strong move, being able to trap things, so then you can pick it up with either Zamazenta or Chanpao is very impressive. And this is a really good stuff CSR team, right? I think Tinglu looks a little bit odd because you have these special attackers here, right? But it just allows you to sit in front of the strongest special attack and restricteds, right? And you trade with them well, and then the passive trip you get from Sand Tomb, Snarl Nation allows you to pick up things with your strong attackers with either Astral Barrage or Ice Man or Chanpao. So yeah, really cool tech, and this is rank 1 in Battle Stadium right now. The other team I want to talk about is Jamie Boyd's team, because Boyd's team is crazy. I gotta talk about this. I have no idea what Chestnut's doing here exactly. I think it's just like he's probably seen maybe the Leech Seed Ice Riders going around and wanted his own with the Chestnut because you can't afford to fit Ice Rider on here. I guess you do fill up a restricted slot because of that, right? And I guess the one other thing that it's Wyguard, right? So Wyguard, you're like, sort of like a mini Zamazenta in a way. It didn't really do much of Shroomdale. I know he did face Aurelion, but I guess like when you're facing Chestnut with Ho Oh, I guess that makes sense why he wasn't able to win. But I know he won 7-1 in day 1. He won 8-3 in day 2, just shy of top cut. Shows that the team definitely has premise. Wish we got to see more of it. We don't saw him losing stream, but this team is fire though. I'll say like this is like he's been cooking recently, and he's shown why he's the best chef in the EU right now, right? Like come on, like Terra Blast Ground Cali Shadow with Discharge Miraidon is really funny combo. With Fake Tears Grimmsnarl to boost your special attackers. It's also Hex, which is really funny. So you can Hex like if you get a Para or Flame Body burn, right? Hex is like double damage, get some really cool KOs. And the other thing I want to note is the Assault Vest Blood Moon. It's like a Rega Age set. We haven't seen AV Blood Moon forever. Like we saw Blood Moon make top 4, but a more traditional Microbe set. Assault Fest we saw a little bit in Rega Age, but that was really it. And he's bringing back full power this time with the Terra Fairy Moonblast, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Fairy types are good right now. So I guess I mentioned like ground types are limited, so I guess I can kind of see the difference with Ursaluna. But yeah, this is a Boyd special. I don't know if anyone else can use it but Boyd, but he cooked. And Yeah, that's all I really want to talk about for teams. The rest of the stuff is kind of boring. Like I'm seeing some of the more standard CSR Zama teams and Paco stuff down here. Um, but yeah, that's gonna be it for my meta recap for Utrecht and some of the other regionals. I might do a separate recap for Melbourne and such, but there's a whole lot of terms to cover. I'll see out of time for it. But I definitely wanted to talk about Utrecht because it was the main one streamed on Pokemon official channel, and there's a lot of key takeaways here. That Leech Seed Ice Rider combo. But yeah, excited to see how the meta develops from here. We have a Portland next weekend. Wondering what's going to happen from there. Let me know what you guys think about the meta currently and what do you guys think is going to happen in the future tournaments coming up. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, and I'll catch y'all later. Goodbye.